Welcome back to the Cultural Curriculum Chat podcast. And today's episode is a little different. I'm not here to announce a rebrand. I'm here to name a reclamation. Because when women like us evolve, the language has to evolve too. For a long time, I've worn many titles: educator, consultant, podcaster, author. But the truth is, I've always been doing one thing: telling stories that help people understand culture, identity, and belonging. Today, I am naming myself clearly: author, CEO, cultural storyteller. Not because I'm starting something new, but because I've finally calling my work what it has always been. You know, I said this story before, and you can read it on my website, but what really gave me this reclamation goes back to 1991 when I was in sixth grade at Adams Elementary School, and my father came to my classroom and wanted to share to my classmates and my teacher about the history of Liberia. And before I got on that school bus, my dad said, "Jebeh, put on your head tie. And I want you to be proud of who you are." And when you're 11 years old, you're like, okay, I'll just do what my dad says and I'll put it on. But I had my regular, American street clothes on. And when he did this beautiful speech talking about the history of Liberia and why we emigrated, I learned a lot of new things that I didn't know before about our family story. But when he told me in front of my whole classmates and said, "Jebeh, stand up and claim who you are," that was something that really flipped the switch in my life, in my identity, to know who I was, to be proud of who I was as this small, vague girl from Liberia growing up in the suburbs of Minneapolis. And that moment didn't make me brave, but it revealed who I already was. Both my mother and my father told me who I was since birth. My relatives reminded me who I was. So for me, it has always been intentional in my life. Not over emotional, not an over explanation, but this is who you are. And it's always been consistent in my life, and something that I share with my children, to be intentional and be proud of who they are. Now, in this author journey and my cultural storytelling journey, I've always thrived on listening to my elders, listening to my neighbors and my friends to see and learn about their origin stories, what came to be. My in-laws told me their immigration story of my husband's namesake and his great-grandfather, Andrew, and how he emigrated at age 13 with his brother to the United States. These are stories that we all hold dear, and they show us the time when we don't have a choice but to leave the country that we know to start a new life in a new country and new rules and new expectations. So when I put my pen to paper and I create stories of life, of immigration, of survival, of grief, of joy, of love, it is so important to continue these stories, to share that you're not alone in this journey that we call life. Shout out to Prince. So in this season of my life, it's not about proving credibility. You can check in my portfolio of my YouTube channel of over 160 episodes and counting. You can check my portfolio of my podcast, the same thing, over 160 episodes, 108 countries listening to me every Friday, 1,123 cities, y'all, are tuning into me. And the top 3 countries that tune into me every single week is the United States, Germany, and Japan. So I see y'all, I love y'all, and I can show you my work and the breadth and the depth that I do is something that I get so excited to create for you all every single day. I'm creating cultural relevant, culturally appropriate lesson plans for our kindergarten to 12th grade educators. I've got professional development trainings for small businesses and big businesses that they can purchase on my website on demand that is created by a licensed classroom teacher who has enough knowledge and 3 degrees and expertise to get you where you need to be. So for me, this year of 2026 is the season of my life that I am not about proving my credibility, but I'm exercising my authority. I have been that authoritative voice in this space. I am continuing to write stories rooted in Liberian cultural heritage and honoring that and learning and creating more lived experience stories of the Black female experience. I am leading conversations that ask you better questions. And I am building this business that honors culture without commodifying it. So many times we see people in this space that culturally appropriate for the wrong things. They are speaking in voices and lived experiences that are not their lived experience. They're using it as an anthropological voice and lens. But when you sit down and interview, like I have on my podcast, and my YouTube channel, interview people of different lived experiences and asking those courageous questions. That's how you get to move in a beautiful dance of understanding each other fully and valuing each other across the Zoom lens, across the table, and across the AirPods, that you are just listening to richness and courage and bravery, resistance and resilience. And that is what I am so excited for you in this season of my life to come along this journey with me, and look at my podcast, listen to these interviews that I've conducted and continue to conduct. I am so excited for this season 8 of you meeting TEDx speakers, CEOs of Girl Scouts of the River Valleys out here in Minnesota. You're going to meet disability advocates and trailblazers. You are going to meet historians. You are going to meet people in the education sector that want all of our children to succeed because we still have hope. We still have trust. We still know that what we are doing in any corner of this world, we are building bridges and connecting. And to me, that is something that is rich in value that will ripple out for years and generations to come. And I am so excited, y'all, to be a part of that. If you have been feeling quiet nudge and you just need to stop explaining yourself and start naming your work, this episode is for you. I am a proud author, CEO, and cultural storyteller. Stay with me this season, my dear, because we are going deeper. And I am so excited for you all to be on this journey with me. Until next time, I'll see you here, same time next week. Bye-bye.